My name is Valeria Fulford, 31 years old. On Christmas Day 2025, my father stood up in front of 26 relatives, raised his wine glass, and said, "One daughter's dating the guy with the Bentley, the other just married a nobody who sells them." Everyone laughed. My husband, the so-called nobody, sat right next to me, perfectly still, and smiled. 3 minutes later, my sister's boyfriend walked through the door, saw my husband, and dropped his keys. The Bentley keys. His face went completely white. He stammered one word. "Mr. Fulford?" My father nearly dropped his glass. The entire room went silent. What happened in the next 5 minutes changed everything my family thought they knew about my husband, and it all started with that single toast. If this story already hits close to home, if you've ever been publicly compared, mocked, or made to feel small because of who you chose to love, then please hit like and subscribe, only if it truly means something to you. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to know where you're listening from tonight, and whether you've ever been the nobody at your own family table. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up being the easy child. Good grades, well-behaved, quiet. The kind of daughter you could forget was in the room. My sister Natasha was 5 years younger, and from the moment she was born, she was the star. The pretty one. The one who got attention just for existing. I remember her sweet 16. My parents spent $18,000. Designer dress, DJ, venue with a chocolate fountain, 300 people. I stood in the corner in a dress I'd bought myself from Target and watched everyone tell my parents how lucky they were to have such a beautiful daughter. My sweet 16 had been 6 people at Olive Garden. $600 total. My mother said we were keeping it simple because I'd said I didn't want anything big. I hadn't said that. But I learned early that disagreeing wasn't worth it. By the time I turned 23, I understood. Love in my family was a performance, and I wasn't good at performing. Fast forward to 2025. I'm 31, teaching elementary school, making $54,000 a year. Natasha is 26, running what she calls her online boutique, a Shopify store where she resells clothes from wholesalers. She makes about $32,000 a year, but she lives like she makes $200,000 because my parents pay for everything. Her rent in a luxury Tampa apartment, $2,400 a month. Her Audi Q5 lease, $680 a month. Her business expenses, her shopping budget, her girls' trips, all of it. We're talking $48,000 a year in subsidies. My parents call it investing in her future. They've never invested a dollar in mine. Christmas 2024. The gifts told the whole story. Natasha got a $5,000 check for boutique inventory expansion. I got a $200 Amazon gift card. Both opened at the same time, in front of 19 relatives. The ratio was 25-1. Everyone noticed. Aunt Ruth looked uncomfortable. A cousin whispered, "That's messed up." Philip squeezed my hand under the table. We left early. I cried in the car. The comparisons were constant. My teaching career was sweet but not ambitious. Natasha's boutique was entrepreneurial vision. At Thanksgiving 2024, they literally seated me at a side table with Aunt Ruth, who talks about her 7 cats for hours. Natasha sat at the head table with my parents, holding court. My mother would send me Natasha's Instagram posts. 70,000 followers, half of them bought. Designer bags, boutique office photos, boss babe quotes, manifesting abundance. All funded by my parents' money. Mom's group texts were their own kind of torture. So proud of Natasha hitting 70,000 followers. With 3 party emojis. Then, "Valeria, how's your classroom going?" With 1 slightly sad smile emoji. The emoji difference said everything. I stopped trying to compete years ago. But that didn't stop them from keeping score. My father had sold his SaaS company in 2019 for $6.5 million, retired at 58. Now he and my mother lived in a $1.8 million McMansion in a gated Tampa community, playing the part of old money even though they'd grown up solidly middle class. New kitchen remodel, $185,000. Ice sculptures at parties. A hired pianist. Everything designed to impress the country club set. And my father was deeply insecure about it. I'd hear him at the club, overcompensating. Both my daughters are doing incredibly well. One's an entrepreneur. The other teaches kindergarten. The pause before teaches said everything. But the real comparison started when I met Philip. February 2017. A friend's 30th birthday party at a brewery. I was 27, tired of disappointing my parents, and not looking for anything. Then I met Philip Fulford. He was quiet, funny in a dry, unexpected way, wore jeans and a flannel shirt, drove a Ford F-15. Oh, that had seen better days. When someone asked what he did, he said, "I work in automotive sales, buy and sell cars. It's not glamorous, but I like it. You get to meet interesting people." Completely true, also completely misleading, but I didn't know that yet. What I knew was that sitting next to him felt easy. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing. Our first date was coffee. The bill was $8.40. Philip paid with cash from a worn leather wallet. We talked for 3 hours. Within 3 weeks, I was falling for him. Within 3 months, I knew my parents would hate him. I brought him to Sunday brunch in May 2017. My father asked what he did. Philip said, "Automotive sales." My father's face, I watched the disappointment settle in like fog. My mother changed the subject immediately. Natasha, who was 22 and still living at home, looked smug. After Philip left, my father said, "Automotive sales? Valeria, come on. You're a college graduate. You can do better than a car salesman." My mother called me 3 times that week. Each conversation started differently but ended the same way. "Are you sure about him?" I was sure. Philip was kind, stable, mature. He talked about his grandfather who'd taught him about cars, who'd given him his start in the business. He worked long hours but loved what he did. He never tried to impress anyone, never name-dropped, never flexed. In August, after we'd been dating 6 months, I asked him if it bothered him that my family dismissed him. He said, "I don't need to prove anything to people who won't see me anyway. I just need to be enough for you." I started crying. Happy tears. By December, I knew I wanted to marry him. And I knew my family would never understand why. He proposed at sunset on Clearwater Beach. Simple. Perfect. The ring was beautiful. I learned later he'd paid $4,800 cash for it. 1 carat, white gold, classic setting. When I called my parents, my mother's first words were, "How big is the ring?" My father's, "Does he have a plan to move up in his career?" I said, "I'm engaged." My mother said, "To Philip? The car salesman Philip?" "Oh, honey." She cried the day I told her we were engaged. Not happy tears. Wedding planning was a nightmare. My parents contributed $6,000 but complained the entire time. My mother sent me an email in March 2018. "Valeria, I love you, but I'm embarrassed to tell my friends about your wedding plans. Can't Philip's family contribute more?" "Oh, right. They don't have money either." With a sad face emoji. I paid $6,000 from my own savings. Total budget, $12,000. 85 guests. Botanical gardens. Beautiful, but modest. I married him anyway. June 23rd, 2018. Best decision I ever made. And the beginning of 7 years of quiet warfare. The wedding day itself set the tone. My parents arrived late. My mother complained about the heat. My father's toast was 60% about hoping Philip provides well for my daughter, and 40% actual congratulations. People laughed, but it cut. Our honeymoon was Panama City Beach. 5 days, $2,800 total. When I told my mother where we were going, her face fell. Not even Aruba? Oh, sweetheart. She offered to help with a real honeymoon. I said we loved the beach. She said, I meant a beach people talk about. We had the best week of our lives. My parents told people we stayed local. In August 2018, we bought our first home. 3-bedroom, 1,400 square feet, $289,000. Tampa suburbs, good school district for my commute. My parents visited once. My mother's review. It's cozy, small, but cozy. My father said, you'll want to upgrade in a few years. They never visited again. Too embarrassing, I think. Thanksgiving 2018 was my first major holiday as a married woman. 22 relatives present. My father introduced Philip to his golf buddies as the car guy. Not my son-in-law Philip, not Philip Fulford, just the car guy. Philip. He sells used cars. With a dismissive hand wave, Philip shook hands and smiled. Later in the car, I asked if it bothered him. He said, not even a little. I didn't understand how that could be true. The pattern locked into place. Every family event, Philip was dismissed. Seated away from my parents. Not included in conversations. Treated like furniture. Easter 2019, I overheard my mother talking to her sister. I just wish Valeria had married someone with prospects. Philip's nice, but he'll never be more than what he is. Christmas 2019, the gift disparity continued. Natasha got $3,000 in business capital. I got a $150 Target card. By year 2, I'd learned my husband was invisible to them, and maybe that was exactly how he wanted it. I started noticing things. Philip was never bothered, never defended himself, never corrected their assumptions. Just serene. When I asked why he let them talk about him that way, he said, because I know who I am. Their opinion doesn't change that. I thought it was emotional maturity. I didn't realize it was strategy. The years from 2020 to 2024 were more of the same. Natasha's online boutique making barely enough to survive was praised constantly. My stable teaching career was dismissed. My father would say things like, Natasha's sales were up 15% this quarter. Valeria, did you get a raise? I'd say teachers got 2%. He'd say, oh, well, Natasha's numbers are impressive. They called subsidizing Natasha $48,000 a year, investing in her future. They called my job sweet. May 2024, my mother turned 60. She threw herself a massive party at the country club. $12,000. But the real gift was a girls' trip to Turks and Caicos with Natasha. 5 days, $8,500. I was invited to the birthday party. I wasn't invited on the trip until 2 days before. Too late to request time off from teaching. My mother said, oh, you can't come? Okay. When they got back, my mother posted 35 photos of her and Natasha. 0 photos of me at her birthday party. I mentioned it hurt. She said, you're married. You have Philip. Natasha needs me. Christmas 2023 was the peak of the gift disparity. $5,000 for Natasha, $200 for me. Both opened at the same time in front of relatives. Philip squeezed my hand under the table. We left early. I cried in the car. Natasha's Instagram was its own kind of weapon. Constant luxury lifestyle posts, designer bags, birthday gifts from my parents. Her apartment living room photographed as her boutique office. Built this empire from the ground up, she'd caption, with flexing and sparkle emojis. Empire meaning Shopify store. Ground up meaning parents' money. My mother sent me every post. See what she's accomplishing? I started muting the threads. Easter 2024. My father's toast compared us directly. So proud of Natasha's thriving business. She's a natural entrepreneur. And Valeria, we're proud you're shaping young minds. The tone difference was impossible to miss. 24 people heard it. Philip stayed silent. I forced a smile. That night I asked him, "Why do you stay quiet when they do that?" He said, "Because in 3 moves, they'll checkmate themselves." I had no idea what that meant. By fall 2024, I was exhausted. 7 years of this. I was considering limiting contact. Then, in September, Natasha sent a group text. "Met someone amazing. Can't wait for you guys to meet him." My mother's response came within seconds. "Finally, when can we meet him?" The energy she'd never shown for Philip. Then in April 2025, Natasha met Dominic. And the comparisons went nuclear. May 2025, Sunday family dinner. Natasha brought Dominic Castellano, 30 years old, tall, handsome, wearing a tailored boss suit. Confident handshake, warm smile. And he drove up in a black Bentley Continental GT. My parents' eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. My father practically ran outside to look at the car. When Dominic walked in, my father said, "Beautiful machine out there. That yours?" Dominic smiled. "Yes, sir. Just got it." My mother Googled the price at the table and whispered to my aunt, 245,000 new. Philip and I sat at the far end of the table. We might as well have been invisible. Over dinner, Dominic laid out his story. Senior executive in luxury automotive sales. Managing a team. Big deals closing constantly. My parents hung on every word, asked 100 questions. My father offered him a cigar after dinner. He'd never offered Philip one, not once in 7 years. At one point, my father said, "Luxury automotive. Now that's where the real money is. Philip, you're in used cars, right? Must be different worlds." Dominic smirked. Philip just nodded. The dinner lasted 3.5 hours. My father spent 2 hours talking to Dominic. Maybe 10 minutes total, acknowledging Philip's existence. When we left, my mother hugged Natasha and whispered, loud enough for me to hear, "He's perfect." She didn't hug me. June through August, there were 4 more family dinners. Dominic was always impressive, always in suits, always with stories about deals and clients, always with the Bentley. My parents' obsession grew. "When are you two getting engaged?" They'd ask Natasha constantly. To me, they'd say, "How's school?" In the same tone you'd ask about the weather. In July, my mother said, "Dominic is taking Natasha to the Bahamas, all expenses paid. That's what a provider looks like." "Philip, do you and Val travel much?" Philip said, "We're happy." My mother said, "Oh." The Bahamas trip was actually 3 days at a budget resort. Dominic financed it on a credit card, but he told my family he was treating his girl right. Natasha posted 50 photos. My mother shared every single one. I started dreading family events. Philip noticed. He said, "Just a little longer." I didn't understand what he meant. In September and October, Dominic started dropping hints about big plans and taking the next step. Natasha would squeal and tell the family. My mother started planning an engagement party before there was even an engagement. My father started calling Dominic my future son-in-law. Philip was still the car guy. In October, I was at the club picking up something for my mother. I walked past my father's table. He was with his golf buddies. He said, loud enough for me to hear, "My youngest daughter's boyfriend is in high-end automotive sales, drives a Bentley, about to propose. My older daughter's husband sells used cars. You win some, you lose some." They all laughed. I walked to the bathroom and cried for 5 minutes. I told Philip what I'd heard that night. He just said, December. One thing happened in July that I didn't think much of at the time. We were at a family dinner and Dominic was talking about work. He said, casually, "Saw the owner at our Tampa flagship today. Some guy named Philip. Wearing a polo shirt, checking under a Porsche hood. Super hands-on for a CEO." Natasha wasn't even listening. She was scrolling Instagram. She said, Dominic continued, "Most owners never visit the floor. This guy was literally vacuuming a car interior." Natasha said, "That's nice, babe. Look at this dress. Should I buy it?" If she'd listened, really listened, everything would have been different. But Natasha never really listened to anyone but herself. November 9th, Natasha had her boutique launch party. 60 people, $3,200 in catering that my parents paid for. Bartender DJ. And Dominic parked the Bentley right outside. Valet parking would have hidden it. Every single photo had the car in the background. Natasha posted, "Couldn't have done this without my incredible man, #luxury life, #boutique owner, #blessed." My mother commented, "So proud of my baby and her amazing man, #power couple." Philip and I attended. Brought a $50 bottle of wine. Were thanked for coming and then basically ignored. As we were leaving, Philip took out his phone and photographed the Bentley. I asked why. He said, "Evidence." I didn't know what that meant either. December came. My parents announced they were having a big Christmas dinner. "Dominic's meeting the whole family," my mother said on the phone. 26 people invited. My mother sent me an email on December 12th. "Valeria, Christmas is important this year. Dominic is meeting everyone. Please dress appropriately. And maybe Philip could wear a blazer. First impressions matter." The insult was so casual, like Philip hadn't been part of the family for 7 years. By December, my mother stopped asking about my life entirely. Every phone call was about Natasha and Dominic, what they were doing, what they were planning, how perfect they were together. Philip seemed distracted those last few days before Christmas. On December 22nd, Natasha posted a photo of her and Dominic at Clearwater Beach. The Bentley was in the background. Caption, "Living our best life. #beach weekend. #Bentley. Life. #living the dream." Philip stared at that photo for 2 full minutes. Zoomed in on the car. I asked what was wrong. He said, "Just checking something." Then he screenshot the photo and saved it to a folder labeled Work. He closed his laptop and looked at me. "Tomorrow's going to be interesting." Christmas Eve, I was anxious. Philip was almost amused. I said, "I'm dreading this." He said, "Don't. Tomorrow, everything changes." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You'll see." Christmas morning, he made pancakes, our tradition. Then he gave me my gift, a beautiful white gold necklace, delicate, elegant. I found out later it cost $800. I cried, happy tears this time. He said, "Wear it tonight. You deserve to feel beautiful when the truth comes out." I said, "What truth?" He kissed my forehead. "Be patient. Trust me." We drove to my parents' house at 6:30. Philip held my hand the whole drive, and he was still smiling. My parents' house looked like a movie set. Professional decorator lights, $2,100. Valet parking they'd hired for the night. An ice sculpture in the foyer, $850. A pianist playing in the living room at $400 an hour. Wealth on full display. We pulled up in Philip's Ford F-150. The valet, a kid who couldn't have been more than 20, looked confused. Sir, this is the valet for the Fulford Christmas party?" Philip said, "Yes." The kid said, okay," clearly thinking we were lost. 8 luxury cars were already parked, BMWs, Mercedes, 1 Maserati that belonged to Uncle Carl. We walked in. My mother's face fell when she saw Philip's khakis and polo shirt. "Oh, you didn't wear a blazer." Not, Merry Christmas. Not, so glad you're here. Just disappointment that Philip hadn't dressed up enough. The formal dining room had a table set for 28. Crystal, china, $320 bottles of wine at the main seats near my parents, $40 wine at the secondary seats, place cards in calligraphy. Philip's place card said, Philip, just his first name. Dominic's, sitting in the empty chair of honor next to my father, said, Dominic Castellano, guest of honor. We were seated in the middle of the table, next to Aunt Ruth, who's sweet, but talks about her cats for hours, and Uncle Tom, who doesn't talk at all. The head table, where my parents sat with 2 empty chairs for Natasha and Dominic, was clearly the power center. 26 relatives were there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents' closest country club friends, all witnesses to what my parents had carefully constructed as Natasha's triumph. Cousins asked Philip about his car sales job. He smiled, said nothing. At 7:15, Natasha arrived. Designer Reformation dress, $380. Louboutin heels, $800. A gift from my parents. Full glam makeup. She walked in and became the immediate center of attention. Hugs, photos. You look stunning. She walked past me. Hey. That was it. Then she went to my mother and started showing engagement ring screenshots on her phone. Loud enough for half the room to hear, she said, Dom's bringing the Bentley tonight. Said he wanted to make a good impression on the family. I saw Philip's eyes flicker, the first crack in his calm. At 7:30, everyone was seated. 26 people. My father at the head. My mother at the foot. Natasha in her honor seat, empty chair beside her. The first course was served. Shrimp cocktail, $420 worth. My father tapped his wine glass. 5 awkward minutes of waiting. Natasha was texting Dominic frantically. Where are you? Everyone's waiting. At exactly 8 o'clock, my father couldn't wait anymore. He stood up. He held a bottle of Camus, $320. Poured himself a full glass. Tapped the crystal until everyone was silent. Can I have everyone's attention? I want to make a toast before our guest of honor arrives. I wanted to disappear. Philip squeezed my hand under the table. My father began. I'm so blessed to have 2 daughters. Standard opening. Then came the knife. And I'm so proud of the choices they've made. Well, one of them especially. Laughter started. Uncomfortable, knowing laughter. Natasha has found herself a real winner, a man with ambition, with class. He raised his glass higher, who drives a Bentley Continental to Christmas dinner. Applause. Actual applause. Cheers. Natasha was beaming. 26 people clapping. Aunt Ruth looked uncomfortable. Cousin Julie's eyes went to me. Sympathy. My face burned. I stared at my plate. Then my father turned slightly toward our end of the table. And Valeria? Well, you married a man who's more comfortable in a garage than a country club. Big laugh. Bigger than the first one. Then he delivered the line. One daughter's dating the guy with the Bentley. The other just married a nobody who sells them. The room exploded in laughter. 26 people. Glasses clinking. Uncle Carl shouted, At least one daughter got it right. More laughter. My napkin twisted in my hands. Tears built behind my eyes. I couldn't look up. Philip didn't move, didn't flinch. He took a sip of water and smiled. That small, mysterious smile. Aunt Ruth leaned over and whispered, That was cruel. I whispered back, It's fine. She said, No, it wasn't. The toast finished. My father sat down satisfied. Everyone resumed drinking, chatting, eating. Natasha texted Dominic. Dad just roasted Val's husband, LOL. I couldn't eat. Philip ate normally, like nothing had happened. Then we heard it. A car door closing. Footsteps on marble. The front door opened. 8:03 p.m. Dominic Castellano walked into the dining room. Tailored boss suit, $1,200. Italian leather shoes, $400. Hair perfectly styled, confident stride. He was carrying a bottle of Dom Perignon, $380, as a gift for my parents. Everyone turned. My father stood up, beaming. My mother started clapping. "Here he is, the man of the hour," my father boomed, walking toward Dominic with open arms. Dominic was smiling, confident. The Bentley key fob was visible in his left hand, that distinctive B logo. He started toward my father, then his eyes swept the table and found Philip, sitting calmly in the middle, looking directly at him. Dominic's confident stride stopped. Mid-step, his face froze. The color drained from his skin, white as the tablecloth. My father said, confused, "Dominic, you okay, son?" Dominic's hand opened. The Bentley keys fell. They hit the marble floor with a sharp metallic clatter. Everyone jumped. The Dom Perignon bottle slipped in his other hand. He caught it, barely, but fumbled it, nearly dropped it. 26 people were staring. My mother rushed over. "Oh, careful with that, honey." But Dominic wasn't looking at her. He was staring at Philip. Just staring. Then he stammered. Mr. Fulford?" His voice was shaking. Philip, calm as glass, nodded slightly. "Hello, Dominic. Merry Christmas." Complete silence. 26 people frozen. The only sound was the pianist in the other room, still playing softly, unaware. My father's smile was cracking. "You two know each other?" Dominic could barely form words. That's my boss." The room erupted in confused whispers. Natasha's voice cut through, rising in pitch. "What? No, Dom. Your boss is—" Dominic cut her off, voice barely a whisper. "Philip Fulford, owner, Heritage Luxury Motors." Natasha's face went from confused to terrified in 3 seconds. My father's hand was trembling on his wine glass. My mother made a small, strangled sound. Philip stood. Slowly, calmly. He helped me with my chair, always a gentleman, then turned to face the room. 26 pairs of eyes on him. He spoke quietly. Everyone leaned in to hear. "I should clarify. I own Heritage Luxury Motors, 19 locations across Florida, Georgia, and Alabama." My father's wine glass slipped. He caught it at the last second. Red wine sloshed onto the white tablecloth. My mother made that sound again. Philip continued, eyes on Dominic now. "The Bentley Continental GT you drove here tonight, VIN ending in 2816, is a piece of company inventory from my Tampa flagship location. It's a demo vehicle for client test drives. Current value, $186,000. Dominic whispered. "Sir, I can explain." Philip held up one hand. Dominic stopped talking. "You checked out that vehicle on November 12th for what you reported as a client meeting. It was due back November 26th. That was 29 days ago." Uncle Carl muttered, "Oh shit." Philip's voice never wavered. Still calm, still precise. "Our GPS tracking system shows 1,240 personal miles in the past month." Aunt Ruth was frantically Googling on her phone. Philip continued. "Dominic is senior sales manager at my Tampa store. He's worked for Heritage for 22 months. He paused. Usually good at his job, though his Q4 numbers are down 23% from Q3, and we've flagged some trade-in valuation discrepancies." My father's voice came out hoarse. "You own Heritage Luxury Motors?" Philip didn't answer him. He kept his eyes on Dominic. "Dominic, you used company property to impress your girlfriend and her family. You lied about ownership. You violated policy. You broke my trust." A beat of silence. "We're done. The car needs to be back at the Tampa lot by 8 a.m. tomorrow, or I'm reporting it stolen." Your termination paperwork will be ready Monday. Dominic's face was paper white. Sir, please, Philip's voice was ice. We're done here. Natasha started crying. Not sad crying. Rage crying. Cousin Julie whispered, "Oh my God," staring at her phone. Aunt Ruth, unable to help herself, read aloud. Tampa Business Journal, August 2024. Philip Fulford, CEO of Heritage Luxury Motors, discusses expansion strategy. Annual revenue, $765 million. My mother fainted. Actually fainted. Uncle Carl caught her. Someone else found another article. Net worth estimated at $218 million. My father tried to stand. Sat back down. Couldn't speak. I stood too. My voice was steady. Years of teaching had trained me for this. Dad, you asked what Philip does. He owns 19 luxury dealerships across 3 states. Heritage Luxury Motors. He started with one lot he inherited from his grandfather in 2009 and built everything himself. My voice didn't shake. He works the showroom floor because he loves cars and respects his employees, not because he has to, because he wants to. My mother was conscious again, being helped into a chair, mascara running. I kept talking. For 7 years, you called him the car guy. You introduced him with apologies. You seated him away from you. You compared him to flashier men. I looked at my father. And through all of it, he stayed quiet. Not because he was ashamed. Because he didn't need your approval. My father's face was purple. I said it. Out loud. In front of everyone. You spent 7 years humiliating a man who built an empire while you spent your inheritance. The comparison landed. My father's $6.5 million sale. Philip's $765 million annual revenue. Self-made versus bought. Philip took my hand. He turned to my parents. Thank you for dinner. Merry Christmas. He helped me with my coat. We walked to the door. 26 people in complete silence. The pianist had stopped playing. At the door, Philip paused, turned back. The Ford truck outside. I drive it to personally inspect every car before it goes on my lots. It has 140,000 miles. I'll never sell it. Good night. We left. The door closed behind us, and then we heard it. The chaos starting. The moment the door shut, Natasha started screaming at Dominic. My mother started screaming at my father. My father started screaming at no one. We heard it all from outside. We stood by Philip's truck for a moment, and I started laughing. Not happy laughter. Shocked, overwhelmed laughter. Philip pulled me into a hug. You were incredible in there. I couldn't stop shaking. Inside, Aunt Ruth was reading articles out loud. Cousin Julie was texting everyone she knew. Relatives were pulling out phones, finding photos of Philip at industry events. Awards, interviews. The J.D. Power Customer Excellence Award, 3 years running. Photos of him at auto auctions, at industry conferences. We got in the truck and drove away. Behind us, Dominic ran out of the house 10 minutes later, got in the Bentley, drove away, left Natasha in the driveway, in her $800 heels, crying. She screamed after the car, "Don't you dare leave me here!" The taillights disappeared. She came back inside and slapped my mother. "This is your fault!" Within 20 minutes, 11 relatives had left, made excuses, too uncomfortable to stay, didn't want to watch a family implode. 15 stayed, some enjoying the drama, some in shock. Cousin Julie left last. On her way out, she hugged my mother and whispered, "You need to fix this." Then, louder to everyone, "I tried to tell you Val was the good one." Mom locked herself in her bedroom. Dad poured another glass of $320 wine with shaking hands. At 11:30 p.m., Dominic returned the Bentley to the Tampa lot. Security footage later showed his hands shaking as he checked for damage. He parked carefully. left the keys in the Dropbox, walked to his leased Lexus, payments he was struggling with, sat in the car for 10 minutes before driving away. At 1:20 a.m., Natasha's phone lit up. A text from Dominic. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. We're done. Don't contact me." 8 months. Built on lies. Collapsed in hours. My phone started buzzing. I turned it off. Philip had already turned his off. That night, my family kept searching. Finding more. Every Google result confirmed it. Philip Fulford, CEO of Heritage Luxury Motors. Forbes, Top 50 Auto Entrepreneurs Under 45 list. Industry innovator. Philanthropist, though he gave anonymously, some donations had leaked. Board member of 2 banks. Everything validated. Everything real. And everything they'd dismissed for 7 years. My father Googled last. Found it all. Put his head in his hands. December 26th through 31st, Philip and I turned off our phones completely. Stayed home, watched movies, cooked together, made hot chocolate, talked for hours. He told me the whole strategy. When he knew about Dominic and the Bentley. How he knew. Why he waited for Christmas. "I wanted maximum witnesses," he said. "I wanted it to be at their biggest performance. And I wanted you to see it. See them see it. You deserve that moment." I cried. Happy tears this time. New Year's Eve was just us. Champagne at midnight. Philip raised his glass. "To new chapters," I said. "To new chapters." Meanwhile, my phone, still off, was receiving 89 calls and voicemails, 34 texts from my mother, 31 calls from my father, 12 from Natasha, 12 from various relatives. Mom's texts ranged from "please call" to "we need to talk" to "I'm your mother." Dad's voicemails started angry, then defensive, then pleading. December 28th. "Valeria, this is ridiculous. You can't just... We didn't know. How were we supposed to know? Call us back." Not one apology in 89 contacts. All blame shifting. All defensiveness. Natasha's Instagram told its own story. All Dominic photos deleted. 24 posts gone. Her boutique Instagram temporarily closed for the holidays. Translation, indefinitely, out of shame. Friends reported she wasn't leaving her apartment. Food delivery only. Devastated. I felt nothing. Maybe that should have scared me. It didn't. January 1st, I turned my phone back on. Immediately, the doorbell rang. 9 a.m. My mother at the door, unannounced, crying. Performance tears. I could tell the difference now. "We need to talk." I let her in. Philip was at work. Returning to normal felt good for him. My mother hugged me, apologizing, but wrong. All about her. "I'm so embarrassed. How could you not tell us? We look like fools. Everyone at the club is asking questions." I said, "Mom, we didn't know. How are we supposed to know Philip was successful?" I let her finish. Then I said calmly, "You never asked. In 7 years, you never once asked Philip about his work." She tried to argue. I held up my hand. "You assumed. You compared. You humiliated. And now you're embarrassed because 26 people saw the truth. And you're making this about you. About your embarrassment. Not about what you did to us." 45 minutes. Zero real accountability. Everything was either my fault for not telling them, or Philip's fault for being secretive. I told her to leave. She did, crying harder. January 3rd, my father called. Defensive immediately. "It was a joke, Valeria, at dinner. Just a joke. You're overreacting." I said calmly, "You called my husband a nobody in front of 26 people. You toasted his failure. You laughed." "I didn't mean..." "Yes, you did." "Well, he should have told us. This is partially his fault for..." I hung up. He called back 4 times. I didn't answer. January 8th, a letter arrived. Handwritten, 2 pages, both signatures. I read it twice. Dear Valeria, we're sorry you were hurt, but we didn't know. But Philip should have been clearer, but you could have told us. But we were only trying to help Natasha succeed. But this has been so hard on us. We love you, but you have to understand how humiliating this is for us. Our friends are asking questions. We need to know how to handle this. Not one sentence took real accountability. Not one acknowledged the pattern. Everything was sorry you were hurt, not sorry we hurt you. I didn't respond for a week. I was done being small. January 15th, I sent an email. Subject line, moving forward. Philip read it before I sent it. Squeezed my hand. You're amazing. I laid out 5 conditions, numbered, clear. 1. Family therapy, licensed therapist, minimum 4 months, weekly sessions. You pay. 2. Written apology acknowledging specific harms without blame shifting or excuses. 3. Public apology to Philip at the next family gathering in front of witnesses. 4. Stop financially enabling Natasha. $48,000 a year in subsidies ends. She needs to grow up. 5. Respect boundaries. No surprise visits. No comparing your daughters. No dismissing my marriage. No performing superiority. Final line. If you cannot agree to these terms, we will have no contact. Your choice. Sent at 9:13 a.m. My father called at 9:47 a.m. angry. This is extortion. You can't blackmail us into therapy. We're your parents, I said calmly. Then I guess we're done. He sputtered. My mother grabbed the phone. Valeria, please, this is unreasonable. I said, it's non-negotiable. I hung up. Philip asked that night, how do you feel? I said, free. January 18th. Natasha sent 23 texts over 2 hours. I read the first one. You ruined my relationship. You were always jealous of me. You could have warned me about Dominic. Philip sabotaged my happiness on purpose. This is sick. You're sick. I hate you. 0 accountability. All victim mentality. All blame. I responded once. You built your relationship on lies. That's not my fault. She blocked me on all platforms. My parents tried to force reconciliation over the next week. She's your sister. Family is family. You need to forgive her, I said. She needs to take accountability first. They couldn't understand. Kept defending her. She's hurting. She lost her boyfriend. She's embarrassed, I said. She's 26. She needs to grow up. And you need to stop enabling her. The word landed. Enabling. First time anyone had named it. I didn't hear from Natasha again. And I was okay with that. February 1st, first therapy session. Dr. Catherine Hayes, licensed family therapist, 50-minute sessions, $200 each. My parents paying, as I'd required. They came in defensive, arms crossed. We're only here because Valeria demanded it. Dr. Hayes was patient, persistent. The first 3 sessions were brutal. My parents blamed everyone but themselves. Session 4, February 22nd, something shifted. Dr. Hayes asked my father, Lawrence, when you introduced Philip as the car guy, how do you think that made Valeria feel? My father tried to deflect. She waited. Finally, he said, I don't know. I didn't think about it. She said, think about it now. Silence. Then my father started crying. Real tears. I humiliated her. In front of people. For years. I made her feel small. First real accountability. My mother watched, shocked. Session 7, March 14th. My mother's turn. I did make Natasha the golden child. I gave her everything and called it love. I gave Valeria nothing and called it being fair. She was crying too. I see it now. I damaged her. For 26 years. Dr. Hayes nodded. And what do you want to do about it? Fix it. If she'll let me. Small changes started. Tiny shifts. March 10th, my father called Philip. Outside of therapy. Asked about heritage. Genuine curiosity. Listened for 20 minutes. Actually interested. March 12th, my mother texted me asking about my day. Not mentioning Natasha once. Actually remembered I'd mentioned a lesson plan and asked how it went. It wasn't perfect. But it was progress. March 22nd, 2026. My parents hosted a spring family dinner. They claimed it was an early celebration for my mother's 61st birthday in April. But everyone knew what it really was. This was Valeria's condition number 3. Public apology. 18 relatives present. Not all 26 from Christmas, but the key witnesses. Aunt Ruth, Cousin Julie, Uncle Carl, others who'd been there that night. Same dining room, but different energy. Humbled. Not performative. 7 p.m. Everyone seated. My father stood. No wine glass this time. No performance. Just stood. His hands were shaking. He held notes. The therapist had helped him write them. I need to say something. 3 months ago, at Christmas, I stood in this room and humiliated my daughter and her husband in front of 26 people. Dead silence. I called Philip a nobody. I mocked his work. I compared my daughters in a way that was cruel and unfair. I did this because... His voice cracked. Because I was insecure. Because I needed to feel superior. Because I was wrong. He turned to Philip. Philip, I called you a nobody. On Christmas. In front of our whole family. I was wrong. You're extraordinary. You've built something remarkable. You've loved my daughter with patience and grace I don't deserve to witness. I'm sorry. His voice broke. I don't deserve your forgiveness yet. But I'm asking for the chance to earn it. Silence. Then my mother stood. She looked at me. Tears streaming. Real ones. Valeria, I made Natasha my favorite. I made you invisible. I damaged you for 26 years. She took a shaky breath. You deserved better from me. From birth. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the mother you deserved. She sat down. Awkward silence. Then Cousin Julie started clapping. Uncle Carl joined. Then Aunt Ruth. Slowly, 18 people clapping. Not enthusiastically. Thoughtfully. Acknowledging the effort. The courage. Philip stood. Walked to my father. Extended his hand. They shook. Philip said, "Thank you." Just that. I hugged my mother. Briefly. A start. Aunt Ruth came over after. That took guts. From all of you. Late March 2026. Philip and I are stronger than ever. Morning walks. Cooking together. Laughing more. Real laughter. Not performance. I got promoted to lead teacher. $58,000 a year. Small increase, but it mattered. Philip's business is thriving. They're opening a 20th location in Atlanta in May. We've built new friendships. Couples from Philip's work, teachers from my school, chosen family. Sunday dinners filled with actual laughter, actual respect, actual interest in each other's lives. One of Philip's colleagues said last week, "You two have something special. You can feel it." We do. My parents, slow rebuild. Monthly dinners at neutral restaurants. Not their home, not ours. Boundaries holding. Conversations more genuine. My father asked Philip's advice on an investment last week. Actually listened. My mother asked about my students by name. Remembered things I'd told her. They still slip sometimes. Old habits. But they catch themselves now. Apologize, it's not perfect. But it's progress. Natasha? Still no contact. My parents finally stopped pushing for reconciliation. She's not in therapy. She's not taking accountability. She's 26 years old, living off my parents' money, blaming everyone else for her choices. Maybe one day she'll grow up. That's not my responsibility anymore. I've learned something these past few months. The family you choose matters more than the family you're born into. The one I was born into? They're learning. Slowly. On my terms. With boundaries. With therapy. With accountability. It might work. It might not. But I'm not sacrificing my dignity to find out. And the family I chose? He's been holding my hand through all of it. The man my father called a nobody. The man who taught me what real strength looks like. The man who stayed quiet for 7 years. Not because he was ashamed, but because he knew his worth didn't require their validation. The man who built an empire while they counted status symbols. The man who loved me when I felt invisible. The man who's been quietly extraordinary all along. My name is Valeria Fulford. I'm 31 years old, and I finally understand what Philip meant when he said, "In 3 moves, they'll checkmate themselves." He didn't need to defend himself. He just needed to wait. Because real power doesn't shout. It doesn't perform. It doesn't beg for recognition. Real power is patient. Real power is calm. Real power knows that truth always surfaces. Always. You just have to give it time. And witnesses. And one perfectly timed Christmas toast. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever been compared and found wanting, if you've ever loved someone your family dismissed, I see you. You're not the problem. You never were. And the people who can't see your worth? That's their blindness, not your inadequacy. Choose the people who see you. Build boundaries with the ones who don't. And remember, dignity isn't loud, but it always wins. Always.